Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour, and today is Tuesday, January 12th, 2021. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or listening through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools that I've ever learned in my over 46 years of doing therapy. And these tools are available absolutely free at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the red and white bullseye or the link in the upper left-hand corner of most pages that says Start Here, it will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Rice's book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? That chapter of that book is a narrative description of the primary tool in this work. That tool is the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using for over 16 years to manage my emotions, use my emotions as a guidance system, let my negative emotions wake me up to the fact that there's something in error in my process of perception, and restore me to more accurate perception and give me better results for the things I choose in my life. Better relationships, better decisions about career, better management of my own emotional state, greater awareness of the fact that I'm continually creating my experience of life moment to moment by how I choose to interpret and then respond to the events that unfold in life. You can also download a host of audio files of shows just like this one where people have called in and been stepped through that worksheet process, and or they've given powerful testimonials about how the use of tools like this has improved their quality of life. You can also go to your app store and type in the 3 words, Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness. And before you're done typing the word forgiveness, you'll have the glowing heart icon there. If you tap on that, it will let you download a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet, an abbreviated version of that process, and a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. And we encourage people to do that soon and often, and then give us a call if you have comments or questions. Our call-in number is 563-999-3581. If you call that number and press 1, it will put a question mark by your phone number, and I can turn on your microphone and announce you by your area code. We've also been committed so far this year to discussing the Course in Miracles lessons as they unfold, one lesson per day for the entire year. And yesterday, being the 11th, the lesson for the day was, My meaningless thoughts show me a meaningless world. And it talked in that lesson about how this is the first big step into undoing the conditioning of our culture that teaches us that the world determines what we perceive. But that idea introduced the concept that our thoughts determine what we perceive. Today's lesson reads, I am upset because I see a meaningless world. The discussion says the importance of this idea lies in the fact that it contains a correction for a major perceptual distortion. You think that what upsets you is a frightening world, or a sad world, or a violent or an insane world. All these attributes are given to the world by you. The world is meaningless in itself. These exercises are done with eyes open. Look around you, this time quite slowly. Try to pace yourself so that the slow shifting of your glance from one thing to another involves a fairly constant time interval. Do not allow the time of the shift to become markedly longer or shorter, but try instead to keep a measured, even tempo throughout as you look around. What you see does not matter. You teach yourself this as you give whatever your glance rests on equal attention and equal time. This is a beginning step in learning to give all equal value. As you look about you, say to yourself, I think I see a fearful world, a dangerous world, a hostile world, a sad world, a wicked world, a crazy world, and so on. Use whatever description happens to occur to you at the time. And then say, but I am upset because I see a meaningless world. The seeming quality of your thoughts does not matter. The seeming quality of what you look at does not matter. Be sure that you do not alter the time intervals between applying today's idea to what you think is pleasant and what you think is unpleasant. So I'm going to equally look at something that I see as pleasant as equally and quickly as I look at something that I see as unpleasant, and then say, but I am creating this experience because I see a meaningless world. What is meaningless is neither good or bad. Why then should a meaningless world upset you? If you could accept the world as meaningless and let the truth written upon it for you, let the truth be written upon it for you, it would make you indescribably happy. But because it is meaningless, you are impelled to write upon it what you would have it be. It is this you see in it. It is this that is meaningless in truth. Beneath your words is written the word of the Creator, the word of God. The truth, lowercase t, truth, upsets you now, but when your words have been erased, you will see His or the Creator's truth. That is the ultimate purpose of these exercises. 3 or 4 times a day is enough for practicing the idea for today. No, and the practice period should not exceed a minute. You may even find this too long. Terminate the exercise if you experience stress or strain. The point of this is to understand how I am the one giving meaning to the world. And every time I give meaning to the world, I end up being upset because I am placing an external, individually created, driven by my past experiences and traumas, interpretation onto the world. And the world is whole and complete just as it is. We've also been looking at the Course in Miracles experiment by Pam Grout, and her chapter on this lesson says, first, rewire the inner life. That's the title of the chapter. And then she quotes Claudia Rankine, don't put the past in the cupboard of your flesh. She writes, Bill Thetford, Columbia professor, whose plea for a better way is what gave rise to the Course, suggested this: if a particular lesson or word or concept doesn't resonate, just rip that sucker out. Today's lesson is the first RSO. Instead, I choose one of its side notes, which is, I get whatever I focus upon. When I give up meaningless thoughts and ideas, and that's any thought of fear or distress or uneasiness, I begin to notice a more pleasing reality. So, here's a story about erasing meaningless thoughts and assumptions. Anand Giridharadas, I don't know how to pronounce that name, is a young Indian-American journalist whose book, True American, won all sorts of Best Book of the Year awards. It's about a Texas vigilante who walked into a Dallas mini-mart 10 days after 9/11 and shot Rasuddin Payun, whatever that name is pronounced more accurately, please substitute a better pronunciation. This person that was shot was an enterprising Muslim immigrant from Bangladesh. The person who was shot survives, ends up getting to know his swastika-tattooed perpetrator, befriends his daughter, even tries to free him from death row. Let's just say the book is incredibly inspiring and shows that beneath the labels of our meaningless thoughts is a much deeper story. But this lesson features Gary Hondras himself. He's 30-something, politically liberal, very PC. The other day, a middle-aged white guy came to install a stove in his Brooklyn apartment. The white guy asks, "So, where are you from?" That all too familiar question always raises red flags. Here we go again, he thinks, another redneck racist making assumptions about my brown skin. But he chose to give up that meaningless thought. So rather than deliver his stock wise-ass answer, which is Cleveland, because, well, he was born and raised by Indian immigrants in Cleveland, instead of saying that, he decided to give this man the answer he knew he wanted. He said, "I was born in Cleveland, but my family comes from India." The stove repairman smiled and said, "That's what I thought. My brother married a woman from India. She has become the light in our family. We are a pretty dysfunctional family. And then she turned everything around." So yes, it's easy to assume I know the way people are, the way this day is going to play out. But once I give up my meaningless thoughts, a beautiful, new, indescribable happiness is free to come streaming in. So if you don't like the phrase, I am upset because I see a meaningless world, rip it out, move on. But find something in this that helps you question every negative conclusion you hold about your life and the world. And in that questioning, you open the space for something beautiful, new, indescribable, and happy to come streaming in. So that's our Course in Miracles study lesson and review for the day, and we have time for comments and questions. Our call-in number is 563-999-3581. Do you have comments or questions about this Course in Miracles 12th lesson? If you call that number and press 1, I'll see a little question mark by your phone number and announce you by your area code. If you don't have comments or questions about that, I will mention something from another book. And that book is titled Untamed by Glennon Doyle. And Glennon tells the story of giving a talk and having a woman stand up and raise her hand to ask a question, and the person with the microphone goes racing to the back of the room to give her the microphone. And that woman stands up and has she says it was a town hall event, and a woman with short gray hair, a gentle, serious face, deep wrinkles, slowly stood up. She wore a sweatshirt with an American flag and the word Grandma puffy painted on it. Her hand shook as she held the microphone, and I loved her instantly. And Glennon says, the woman started out, "Hi, Glennon. I've been following your work for almost 10 years, and I came here to ask you a question that I'm afraid to ask anyone else. I feel confused. My nephew is now my niece. I adore him. I adore her. My granddaughter took a boy to homecoming last year and a girl this year. And now you're gay too. I don't mean any offense. It's just, why is everybody so gay all of a sudden? Well, the room fell silent and still. The sea of heads that was turned toward this woman slowly turned back toward me. Eyes were wide. I felt the room's collective stress. I felt this stress for her, for me, for all of us. Oh God, was that offensive? Was that wrong? Is Glennon pissed? But also, why is everybody so gay all of a sudden? They were worried that we'd just crashed and burned. I knew we had finally taken off. Blessed are those brave enough to make things awkward, for they wake us up and move us forward. I said, thank you for asking a question that most are too afraid to admit they have. Unasked questions become prejudices. Your niece and granddaughter are lucky to have you. Will you tell me your name? Joanne, the woman said. Okay, thanks, Joanne. I do know why everybody's so gay all of a sudden. It's those damn GMOs, genetically modified organisms. A wave of laughter washed over the entire church. Ladies laughed so hard that tears rolled down their faces. And we all had one giant collective organic baptism. When the laughter died down, I suggested that we all take a deep breath. It felt so good to laugh and then breathe together. Everything doesn't have to be terrifying after all. This is just life, and we are just people trying to figure each other out, trying to figure ourselves out. So after a breath, I said something like this. There are wild, mysterious forces inside and between human beings that we have never been able to understand. Forces like faith, like love, like sexuality. We are uncomfortable with our inability to comprehend or control these mysteries. So we took wild faith, the mysterious, undefinable, ever-shifting flow between humans and the divine, and we packaged it into religions. We took wild sexuality, the mysterious, undefinable, ever-shifting flow between human beings, and we packaged it into sexual identities. It's like water in a glass. Faith is water, religion is a glass. Sexuality is water, sexual identity is a glass. We created these glasses to try to contain uncontainable forces. Then we said to people, pick a glass, straight or gay. Oh, and by the way, before you pick, choosing the gay glass will likely leave you unprotected by the law, ostracized by your community and family, and banished by God. So choose carefully. As a result, people poured their wide, juicy selves into these two narrow, arbitrary glasses because that was what was expected. Many people lived lives of quiet desperation, slowly suffocating as they held their breath to fit inside. Somewhere, sometime, someone, for whatever courageous, miraculous reason, finally acknowledged her dragon. She decided to trust what she felt, to know what she knew, and to dare to imagine an unseen order where she might be free. She refused to contain herself any longer. She decided to speak her insides on the outside and just let it burn. She raised her hand and she said, "Those labels don't feel true to me. I don't want to squeeze myself inside either of those glasses. For me, it's not exactly it. I'm not sure what it is yet, but that's not it." someone else heard those first brave words spoken and felt electric hope flowing through his veins. He thought, wait, what if I'm not alone? What if I'm not broken at all? What if the glasses system is the one that's broken? He felt his hand raise and a voice rise within, me too. And another person's hand slowly rose, and then another and another, until there was a sea of hands, some shaking, some in fists. Chain reaction of truth, hope, and freedom. I don't think gayness is contagious, but I am certain that freedom is. So in the name of freedom, we added some more glasses. We said, okay, I hear you. Those other glasses don't fit. So here's a bisexual glass for you. And, well, what do we say about a pansexual glass for you? And we kept adding labeled glasses for every letter of the LGBTQ until it felt like we'd eventually used up the whole alphabet. This is better, we said, but not exactly right, because some glasses still came with fewer rights and greater burdens. Some labels still come with fewer rights and greater burdens. And some people like me still couldn't find a glass that fit. My hunch is that folks have always been 50 shades of gay. I wonder if instead of adding more glasses, we should simply stop trying to contain people within them. Perhaps, eventually, we'll rid ourselves of the glass system or the label system altogether. Faith, sexuality, and gender are fluid. No glasses, no labels, all see. But letting old structures burn can feel uncomfortable and disoriented. Rumbling freedom is scary because at first it feels like chaos. Pronouns and bathrooms and girls talking, taking girls to prom. Oh my. But progress is just perpetually undoing our no longer true enough systems in order to create new ones that more closely fit people as they actually are. People aren't changing after all. It's just that for the first time, there's enough freedom to see people, enough freedom for people to stop changing who they are to fit the labels that others place on them. Progress is acknowledging what is and what has always been. So, perhaps we can stop trying so hard to understand the gorgeous mystery of sexuality. Instead, we can just listen to ourselves and each other with curiosity and love. We can just let people be who they are, and we can believe that the freer each person is, the better we all are. Maybe our understanding of sexuality can become as fluid as sexuality itself. We can remember that no matter how inconvenient it is for us to allow people to emerge from their glasses or labels and flow, no matter how inconvenient that is, it's worth it. Our willingness to be confused, open, and kind will save lives. Maybe courage is not just refusing to be afraid of ourselves, but refusing to be afraid of others, too. Maybe we can stop trying to find common ground and let everybody be the sea. They already are, anyway. That's from the book Untamed by Glennon Doyle. And it's one of the more insightful responses to the issues and pains and fears and labels that we struggle with around sexuality. Just one of the many reasons that I recommend the book. So our call-in number is 563-999-3581, and we have tools here that you could apply to your current life situation if you experience the reading of that or the words that it stirs up in you and emotions that stirs up in you as something less than loving and positive. And they're available at whyagain.org. Click on the red and white bullseye, download the actual worksheet process, or call us on the phone at 563-999-3581 and press 1, and we'll have a conversation. What's your comment? What's your question? How can we support you today? I am actively searching comments or questions. 563-999-3581. The depth of truth. Well, welcome, Susan. You just squeezed in there, Susan.
Oh yeah, what were you going to do?
Somebody else raised a hand as well. Area code 484. You're in the air.
Oh, that's probably Ellen. It is. That's my friend. So Ellen. Yeah, it's very funny. So, Dr. Tim, I love that. Have Ellen ask her question, because my comment dovetails, but not exactly, and hers might be closer to it. I was going to say something about yesterday's show, which I didn't. We were on our way to have our COVID shot, and I just didn't want to talk because I thought we'd be cut off. Anyway, so, yeah, Ellen. So
go ahead then, because mine is totally unrelated to everything that has been said today. So.
Oh. Well, first of all, I loved what you just read. That was the thing about LGBT. Oh, I never got all those letters right, but that was just gorgeous. The lesson itself has gotten me thinking right back into, I was going to fight with you yesterday, Dr. Tim, because you were commenting on that part of the DeMello book that said it's basically okay to be honest enough that you might hurt somebody else's feelings, and I know that isn't what you would ever do yourself, or maybe I don't know that, but in any case, I thought, look, I don't have to fight with Dr. Tim. I know deeply in myself that I would find another way to be true to myself and honest without saying, I'd rather go to this person than that. I like their company better than yours. I just think that's a lousy example, and I'm going to stay with that. You can't unconvince me of that. But what you were doing...
Wait. Let's just try and figure out. Let's try and figure out what makes you think I'm trying to convince you otherwise.
Well,
it's perfectly okay for you to have your opinions and beliefs about that.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to have them. So, on that one. But what your point was to live in honesty and truth. And I agree with that totally. And I realize this is so related to everything that you have been helping me with, and Michael, about this mother issue. Tim Bingham is always saying to me, the day you get in touch with your anger at your mother for having used the riding crop on you when you were small is a day that you'll heal. And I say to him, I'm not mad at my mother. I'm not mad at my mother. I'm not mad at my mother. I'm not, because I wasn't raging, because I wasn't feeling surges of energy and getting red in the face. What was I doing, though? I was shutting her out. And in the meantime, being very loving toward her, telling her all my chipper good news and not anything that wasn't good news for the whole of my life. I did that. Even when I took care of her, and Tim and I did at the end of her life, I always presented only the good stuff. I didn't want to open my heart. So I didn't open my heart. But what does that do? It makes me fake in some way, and that was true in the world too. I realized that this was my way of living in the world. It isn't as if there weren't some wonderful relationships where the heart was right there, but in general, if the person wasn't safe in some way, I would be cheerful and caring and kind and complimentary. And whether it was true or not, I couldn't tell you. It was probably half true. But I thought, boy, the invitation to live into truth, to not speak if I have nothing to say, that's mean enough in my case. Really, this is a challenge. But anyway, it's just borne tremendous fruit to have you go into that, what I thought was there's this thing, you should speak to someone in order to communicate, not to persuade. And I thought you were trying to persuade whomever. I mean, I was on, and maybe you saw my number. I didn't take it that personally, I don't think. I just thought, boy, Dr. Tim had an issue with that, and here I am listening to it, and I could have a fight, but I'm going to get a COVID shot. So anyway, thank you for all of the whole thing. It was just a catalyst to a lot of thinking about stuff. I think I've stopped talking now.
All right. And take a breath or two.
Yeah.
So in some of that, I think you're implying that yesterday you had your hand raised and no one was turning on your microphone?
No. That happened to Ellen, in fact, not me. I didn't raise my hand. Ellen raised her hand and was asking me, I was standing in line at the COVID line at the hospital, and she called me and said, why is it that I pushed one and nothing happened? I said, that does happen sometimes. Maybe when Magda's button went off, it translated into Magda being called into the show.
So is that you had your hand raised, Ellen, during my portion of the show yesterday?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I can assure you it did not show up on the switchboard, or I would have turned on your microphone.
Oh, I believe you. I think maybe it was more important for me to just listen to, what transpired yesterday. There was no judgment about it. I was just curious to know if that happened sometimes, so that's why I questioned Susan about it.
So what's your comment or question for today, Ellen?
Well, even before I get to that, I just want to make a comment, because what Susan was just talking about reminded me of when I was doing the lesson, today's lesson this morning, and kind of like, you get that, you want to keep the meaning of the things that are beautiful to you, I mean, it's always a relief to me to say, when I look at something, that I think is ugly, to say, oh, it's meaningless. That kind of gives me a sense of relief. But when I look at something, let's say like one of my cats, and say that's meaningless, boy, that's brings up a little bit of difficulty. I realize that I have obviously attached meaning that I don't want to let go of. So I think this is kind of like related to what Susan was saying about it's okay to say all the nice things, but not the things that you think are not so nice. But I realized we have to, when I was doing that lesson and recognizing that resistance, which is actually related to my other thing I wanted to talk about, I realized we have to be willing to give it all up, because even the meaning, when we've given things like what we would call a good meaning, it probably still doesn't even compare to God's meaning. And I think we hold on to those because otherwise it would be so difficult to live the life that we seem to be living, because there's so much hardship in it. So we cling to these things that we think are the good things in our life, instead of just being willing to let go of all of it and then, be able to enjoy what life really is. Am I, interpreting that correctly?
I think you're onto something. Yeah, I think you're onto something important. There is nothing in my language, there is nothing in my conscious logical mind that will ever approach appreciation of or experiencing of the totality of life or the totality of the creation. And so when I formulate thoughts, I'm using words, I'm using language, I'm using my conditioning, I'm using my judgments, etc. And that is always going to be highly restricted and limited. And what a lesson like this is trying to point out to me is that whatever judgment or label I put on anything is highly limited. It's limited by my past experience. It's limited by the language, the limitations of my language. It's limited by all kinds of different factors.
Right, and the other thing that I was realizing is that all that, when we do these exercises, I mean, we're looking with our physical eyes, so all our physical eyes can ever see is the appearance, the surface of something. We can't see the content of it. And isn't that where all the meaning lies? It's below the surface.
Well, not only that, but if you think about it, our eyes only register a certain range of energies that we call the visible spectrum. But we know there are energies in and around us that go beyond the visible spectrum, whether it's infrared or ultraviolet. That's just the beginning of the recognition that our senses only pick up a tiny fraction of what's there. And then when you recognize that our minds only process a tiny fraction of what our senses are picking up, then it's easier to just let go of thinking we know what's going on, because we don't have a clue. And every time we reach a level of certainty, it is a distortion, and it's a strengthening of the belief, the distorted belief, that we know what's going on. Ancient Eastern teachings say routinely, he who says he knows doesn't know. She who says she doesn't know, she's onto something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that it's so ingrained. I know, at least from, my past, it was dangerous in my household not to know something because you got ridiculed and belittled. So, I think in general, just our culture, to think that, that's something that people aspire to. So it's something that definitely.
Well, you're highlighting you're highlighting a key point, that each of us has our own different levels of conditioning about how dangerous it is to live in the question or to not know something, and that conditioning is what we're living from, whether we realize it or not. So this series of lessons from Course in Miracles is trying to shine a light on the fact that we are living from these conditioned thoughts and beliefs, and that they are so extraordinarily limiting, and we aren't aware of it. So this is just to help us begin to have a different experience of life, to understand that our perception is driven not by the outside world, but by our thoughts about the outside world. That was one of the key parts of yesterday's lesson.
Right.
It actually said in the first paragraph of explanation from yesterday's lesson, my meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. And then it says, this is the first idea we've introduced that's related to a major phase of the correction process. The correction process is the reversal of the thinking of the world. The world tries to tell us that the world determines what we perceive. Today's idea introduces the concept that our thoughts determine what we perceive. Right? The research from the CIA website says, we're taught to believe that perception's a very passive thing, and that our perception simply records reality or actuality. But all the good scientific research points to the truth, which is that our perception constructs reality. It doesn't record what's out there. It creates its own best guess. If you look at the Anil Seth videos and you read that CIA website on perception, and you understand that each of us is actively imposing our interpretations onto the world, and thereby severely limiting our experience of the world.
Yeah, I had that kind of like insight one day. I think my mother was pointing. She bruises very easily, and she was, pointing at a bruise and saying, see, it's here. And all of a sudden I realized, she's trying to get me to believe something by seeing it. And I realized, seeing isn't believing. Believing is seeing. And that's exactly the point that you're making here. It's what we believe, we then end up
right. We will outpicture it. Right. We will create that perception for ourselves. Absolutely.
Right, because the mind needs to create proof that it's right. That what it thinks is right. And that was another thing that I really got this morning. I grew up believing that my mother didn't love me just because she didn't demonstrate love to me, so I just assumed she didn't love me. And then I found out, many years later that she always did love me, and I believed her because I realized that was just my perception of her. But what still bothered me was when she had told me as a child that I came up to her and I told her I didn't feel loved by her, and she said, instead of giving me any demonstration of love, which is really what I was looking for, she just told me that I was wrong to feel that way. And so that still bothered me, the way she came at it towards me. And this morning I really got it. Wow, I was wrong. My feelings were correct based on what my reality was, but it wasn't my reality wasn't based on truth. And so I realized, wow, it's taken me many years to accept the fact that I was wrong. I was wrong. And it's like, wow. Sometimes it just feels so good to realize that and admit that it was all a huge misunderstanding. It was a mistake. It was a misperception. And that's the way it is with all of these things that make us feel bad, right? I mean,
that's the idea that we're exploring, right? The idea we're exploring is, what if every time I have a negative judgment, a negative emotional state, it is best used by me in this process of life, in this process of consciousness and awareness, as an indication that there's an error in my thought process. Let me just explore that. Let me see what happens if every time I have a negative thought or emotion, I choose to pick up a tool like the Reality Management Worksheet and figure out what my mind is doing to create that negative emotional response and the perception that's giving rise to it, and then figure out what my mind is trying to tell me must happen in order for anything to improve or change, and then cancel that and see what else is under that is outside what my conscious logical mind has access to that might show me something I can't see any other way, to expand my awareness in ways that my conscious logical mind can't. And then just experience that. Some people, the vast majority of people that have done that and come back and reported about it, say it's really dramatically improved their experience of life to engage that process. So we're encouraging people to open to that and see if they try that new level of engaging life, that new pattern of questioning, how it pans out for them. Rather than saying, this is it, this is the truth, you've got to do this, there's only one way to do it, it's this way. Just try it. Put it to practice, see what results it has. Remember from the thing we read from Pam Grout in the Course in Miracles experiment book today, where she was reading about one of the founders, one of the initiation of the founder in this, Bill Thetford. He suggested if a particular lesson or a word or concept doesn't resonate, just rip that sucker out. This is a self-study course. If you find something that starts stirring up negativity or doesn't produce a good result, drop it and try something else. What we're going for is the result of a better experience of life, the result of being able to see the extension of the creative force in each new present moment, life as the gift and the miracle that it is. And to see that accurately, that's what we're going for.
Right. So let me get to what my original question was going to be.
All right.
I'm pretty new at doing the worksheets. I have done several, but some of the ones I have attempted to do, I get stuck on. But what I was really wondering about yesterday is resistance. And because I thought, well, is that really an emotion? I don't think it's an emotion. And how do I deal with, like, maybe the worksheet isn't the best tool for something like resistance, but I'm not sure because, like, again, I'm pretty new to all of this. But I was wondering if how I would tackle something like that. Would it be with a worksheet or is there another tool?
Well, let me ask you what you mean by resistance.
Okay. Well, certain things in my life, like ongoing things, like, and the one I was specifically thinking about yesterday was cleaning. I have a resistance to cleaning. And I don't have a resistance to things being clean. It's just the act of cleaning. And I was really looking at, okay, so what bothers me about it? Why does it seem like I'm resisting it? And I kind of came up with a few things. One is that it just doesn't seem like a fun thing to do. You know, there's a lot of other things I would rather be doing. I find it very boring and repetitive. And it just seems like a waste of time because it's something you have to do over and over and over again. There's no long-lasting benefit. Like, for example, if I decide I'm not going to clean today and I'll clean tomorrow instead, the benefit isn't going to be any greater. by putting it off a day, or it just seems like one of those things that is very it takes time and energy and doesn't really have any long-lasting benefit to it.
Okay, so how are you using everything that you just said to generate a negative emotion? And what would that negative emotion be?
It just feels like I'm just resisting something that I know that I have to do, and this is that where I feel like locked in. Like I know this is something that I have to, and I was thinking about, well, did I have bad experience as a child with cleaning? And I do remember being forced to clean the bathrooms as a child, and I really hated cleaning the bathrooms. Really, really hated it, and always resisted cleaning. And
so today, who is telling you that you have to clean?
I am.
So there's nobody else living with you that gets upset because you're not cleaning?
No, I live with 3 cats, that's it.
Okay, so you're generating a negative emotion when you clean and when you resist cleaning, right?
Usually, once I get started, I'm fine with it. It's getting started. And I really struggle with this.
Okay, so what I'm recommending is that you can do worksheets on the 2 separate things. One is struggling getting started, and the other is the negative emotion you generate when you decide to put it off.
Mm-hmm.
Since you live alone, and since it's just you and the cats, there is no immediate negative consequence except the emotional one you create when you decide to defer cleaning.
Right.
So you can do the worksheets on the negative emotions and judgments you have against yourself when you procrastinate the cleaning, and then you can do worksheets on the negative emotions you generate when you're forcing yourself to clean when you don't want to. So that's 2 different worksheets.
Yeah, because in the
so
one
in the
case,
one,
I don't like.
Say what you're going to say.
In the one case, the one where I'm forcing myself to do what I don't really want to do. It's like now I'm my mother, because she was the one that would force me to do what I didn't want to do.
Well, so the point is, do you need help framing out either of those 2 worksheets?
I may. I know we're almost out of time. I can try and do it and see how it goes.
Well, the one worksheet would be I, Ellen, who am love, am feeling, and the first emotion would be related to what you feel when you procrastinate doing the worksheets.
Yeah,
Are you resenting yourself?
Okay.
Are you feeling
Yeah.
angry at
I
yourself?
would say I'm feeling disappointed with myself.
Okay. And when you have this thought, I'm disappointed with myself, what emotion do you feel? Sad or angry?
I got to get in touch with that because I'm not sure. It almost seems like both. Like
okay.
maybe
Well, you can...
sadness underneath anger.
Okay. Well, and you might, it might work well for you to put disappointment as your emotion, or it might work for you to say, I'm disappointed with myself is my thought. And then the emotion could be, sometimes I feel angry at myself when I feel disappointed. Sometimes I feel sad that I can't live up to my expectations. And so there's one worksheet that could be split into 2 or 3 depending upon which emotion you land on and what thought you use to create that emotion. And then the other one is when you're looking at starting to do work that you really don't want to do, and you'll have resentment that you have to clean, or you're being forced to clean, or that you have to do something you don't like doing. And so those will be the thoughts that are generating the resentment. And then the goal will be that, that I live in a world where I never have to clean, or where everything is always clean, or where I'm not forced to do things, or I only have to do what I want to do. And then when you cancel that goal, it will take you to a different part of your mind.
Okay.
So you can look at the disappointment at one level, and you can look at the resentment and resistance at another.
Yes. Yeah, when I watched the movie Mary Poppins and saw how the room got cleaned, I was like, this is it. Everything put itself away, and it was a big game, I think it was during the song "A Teaspoon of Sugar Helps the Medicine Go Down."
Yep. Yep.
This is the way life should be.
This is it. This is it. And there's another Disney one about, whistle while you work.
Right. Yeah. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
and each of us are going to carry, different thoughts, and they're going to resonate different emotions for either being able to find the joy in the work, or having the resentment about having to do the work, etc. What were you going to say?
There's also something related, I think, to time in all of this, because I find, like, one of the things that came to my mind about this was that it seems like it's a waste of time, and I'm having lots of issues with time lately. And so, like, that's yet another thing that has to, be added to my list of all the things that need to get done. So another thing that has to, be added to my list of all the things that need to get done. So,
well, you might benefit from going to the whyagain.org website and going to the Mind Shifters list. And I'm pretty sure there's one in there about having all the time I need.
Okay.
Do you know about the Mind Shifters list, the targeted journaling list?
I don't know about the list.
So the Mind Shifter is a tool that's used to do targeted journaling. So you write a statement on the left side of a sheet of paper. You draw a line about a third of the way between the left margin and the right margin, a vertical line down, and then on the left side of that line you write a statement, like the Mind Shifter tool. A Mind Shifter tool, there are a list of them that is available on whyagain.org, and number 4 in the third grouping says, I'm always in the right place at the right time, successfully engaged in the right activity. So I'd write that on the left side of the piece of paper. I'd make sure I have a whole stack of blank pages, and I'd block out a minimum of an hour of time to let myself respond to that. And I would write it on the left side of the page. I'm always in the right place at the right time, successfully engaged in the right activity, and then I'd start writing on the right-hand side. Well, that's crazy because right now I'm, facing doing the bathroom, cleaning the toilet again, and I hate this, and this isn't productive, and it's going to get dirty again soon. And I just let myself write all of those thoughts that come up in connection with that thought that I'm always in the right place at the right time, successfully engaged in the right activity.
Mm-hmm.
And I will uncover these, usually, if I keep writing, I'll usually uncover some emotionally charged beliefs that I didn't know were there. And they'll spill out on the right side of the page. So I realize that we've gone into the second hour, and I will thank you, Ellen and Susan, for your comments and questions, and I'll mute you and get ready for the transition because I'm supposed to be in another meeting. And I'll remind us all that we come from love, we're made of love, we actually are love, and everything else is false. Welcome, Dr. Michael Rice.
Well, thank you, sir, and you have a blessed and awesome day. Jeannie has been caught up with her father at the dentist, and so is not with us. And so here I am on my own, and we'll rock and roll and say thank you, Tim.
Blessings. I think Jeannie just joined on the switchboard, so have a great show.
Okay, blessings. Lots of love. Bye-bye.